Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Hannah Grace. Today we're discussing Love and Marriage Huntsville, Melody Cherie Rogers, her name change ceremony, and what Kimmy the Cougar had to say about it. Let's talk about it. All information is alleged and intended for entertainment purposes only. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Enjoy my commentary.
Okay, that's what I liked. Okay, that's what I liked. Okay, that's what I liked.
Moved my last name to my middle name. Okay. A lot of it was just in my head for having children. I never really wanted to be that stereotype where your kids go to school and they're like, "What's your last name?" and they're like, "Grant." "What's your mama last name?" "Scott." As African Americans, I think a lot of times we're thrown into a stereotypical cycle of, I'm gonna assume that your kids don't have your mama's last name. And I think it's tragic.
Let's start off by defining a stereotype. A stereotype is a fixed general image or set of characteristics that a lot of people believe represent a particular type of person or thing. And tragic is defined as causing or characterized by extreme distress or sorrow. And I simply cannot understand how Kimmy can could connect a tragedy with children not having the same last name as the mother. This is something that has been so common, and I've never associated it with a tragedy. And so as we begin with this scene, we see that Letitia and Kimmy and Melody are sitting at the spa. They're getting their pedicures. Melody is just sitting there conversing with Letitia and Kimmy. So Kimmy brought up the name change ceremony, and she started really almost, in my opinion, throwing jabs from the beginning, talking about she saw the name change ceremony invitations on the internet. And then she also said that when she saw the invitation, she just assumed that her phone was getting ready to start going off and she was going to get an invitation. Melody said no, that basically she invited her family and a few of her close friends. She didn't say, "I invited all of my close friends." She said a few. And she explained to Kimmy that if she had invited Kimmy, then she would have had to invite Maurice. If she invited Kimmy and Maurice, or if she invited Tisha, she would have had to invite Marceau, because Marceau, Maurice, her ex-husband are all close, and she didn't want it to be a thing. She didn't want, Martell to feel any kind of way. Now I'm putting that in there, but I'm just assuming that's what she's saying. And that it could become a thing, and she didn't want it she didn't want that to happen. She wanted her name change ceremony to be a spiritual ceremony that, that focused on the purpose of the name change, getting rid of the old thing, the old name, and moving forward, because she's focusing on her future and not on her past. But again, Kimmy made it seem like in her confessional that Melody made it clear that they're not friends. That's not what Melody said. She said a few of the close friends. Now, I don't know if Kimmy and Melody are close friends or not. I don't know, but I will say this. If I was Melody, Kimmy would definitely not be a friend of mine. No way, no how. Not because of the way she has handled Melody, her thought processes, her behaviors, her actions. She could not be a close friend of mine. I would help her, but it would be limited, because this is the kind of person you would have to handle with a long handle spoon, because these people, the Scotts, Kimmy included, they're not appreciative of what people do for them. They will take your kindness for weakness. They will take your ideals, in my opinion, and run with it. And I recently heard Miss Wanda say something about Stormy on her live. She said that Stormy was trying to take somebody's job, in essence. Who knows that better than Miss Wanda? Because that is exactly what Miss Wanda, Letitia, Marcel, and all of the Scotts, in my opinion, that was on that show, that's what they tried to do. They tried to get their own spinoff. So again, they tried to go behind people back to take something. And that is why they could never be a friend of mine. Neither one of them, Tisha included. So especially after she connected with Martell, talking about Melody had a dark soul, a dark heart. That's the same thing Martell has said, Destiny had repeated, and Letitia repeated. All of these, they could not be around me. Period. Point blank. The end. And so let's listen to exactly how this conversation got started right before Kimmy started talking about the stereotypes.
But it was really nice. Thank you for asking, too. I just wanted to know that it provided you, I guess, what you needed to move on. Did it get you kind of... Oh, absolutely. Did it really? Absolutely. Yeah. Was it like a sense of closure? It was a sense of moving forward and moving on. You know, like not wanting to be attached to that name in that sense. My children will always be, but I was married into that name. So look, but when you think about that, that doesn't play a role either as far as your kid's name and your name being different. No, not.
So it sounds like Kimmy is saying that Melody did not consider her children when she made the decision to change her name back to Rogers. And it sounds like she's saying, if it was me, I would have kept the last name as Holt because I wanted my children to have the same last name as me. I would have kept Holt so that me and my children would have the same last name. That is what she's saying. Because she said that she changed her name, her last name, to her middle name just so her son could have the same last name. That's what it sounds like she's saying. But remember, this lady's son, Kimmy's son, was in college, was grown when her and Maurice got married. So this is apples and oranges that she's talking about. So her son had Grant as his last name, and she had Grant as her last name. But when she got married, she said she kept her middle name now when her son was grown. This lady is just lying all the way around. She kept Grant because she wanted to. It had nothing to do with her son having the Grant name, because if it was dealing with kids and school and stereotypes, because the man was grown when her and Maurice got married. So it wouldn't have mattered what his last name was. And Melody did not, I can totally understand why she did not want to keep Martell's last name, the Holt last name. Because the Holt last name brought, in my opinion, a whole lot of negativity with it, especially because Martell has a criminal history. Not only that, he has tried to destroy Melody with Revenge P. He has tried so many things to harm this woman, and she has tried to do nothing but try to co-parent with him and to be friendly with him. But he is constantly trying to undermine her and manipulate things, and constantly sending people like his baby mama for her and trying to harm her. So that alone would make me want to not even want to hear his name. And if I could, I would change my children's name. But I know that's, she already said that those children have his last name. They are his children, and we cannot take that away from him. And at this point, I think Melody has come to the conclusion that those are his children and that they will have his last name. And there's nothing really she can do about that at this time. However, but baby, believe me, if those children came to age and they want to change their name, I would pay for the name change. I would pay for it. Another reason Melody, in her position as a business person, a successful entrepreneur, and all of this, I would not want to have anything to do with Martell, his baby mama, and their son together. None of that, because it's just too much negativity attached to that. And I'm not saying anything against the baby. I'm just saying the way they use that child, the way they use anything that they can to come against Melody, I wouldn't want anything, nothing, nothing to do with Martell Holt. And people can say she's bitter if they want to. She's not bitter. She's better. She's better. She's grateful. She's doing so much better than she would have ever done attached to someone like Martell. When you are attached to someone like Martell, there is hardly ever anything good that can come out of that. When I say that, I'm saying it because people like that bring destruction. They bring decrease. They never bring increase because their buckets have a hole in it. And this is why Melody began to excel after she severed that relationship from Martell. This is when you saw her exceed far above and beyond what she even thought, because God could not bless her attached to Martell because he was attached to so much other stuff that was bringing nothing but, again, destruction, decrease, emptiness, foolishness, all of that. So she's not bitter, but better. Now, I know that God can bless whoever he wants to bless, whenever he wants to bless them, and how he wants to bless them. But all I'm saying is when you are attached to people like Martell, it's hard to see a blessing. It's hard to really fully submerge yourself and take account of how God really blesses you, because you're in such a disarray as far as your emotions, your financial stability, and all of that, because people like Martell will swindle it away, and they will always try to cause confusion in your life and try to keep you on a, like Melody said, this roller coaster, emotional roller coaster. So it's hard to really put an eye and appreciate all of the blessings that God has for you when you're attached to someone like Martell. So bitter? No, I don't think so. But thankful every single morning that she was able to make it out, clothed and in her right mind. There's a lot of people don't make it out, but by the grace of God, she made it out. And you better believe this woman is rejoicing every single day of her life that she made it out. And for anyone who questions that, it's something wrong with people who want someone to stay in a toxic relationship. It's something wrong with people who think that someone would even want to go back into a lion's den once they escape, want to go back into a fiery furnace once they have been delivered out of those type things. No one in their right mind. And so again, with people like Kimmy the Cougar putting out narratives that women and children that don't have the same last name, is tragic, it's a stereotype. Don't listen to this kind of foolishness. But what mine would want to go back, what we can start doing is looking at the stereotypes that's in our own life. Like, Kimmy, you are a cougar. What type of stereotypes? Now you can address those type stereotypes and help women that, don't understand cougar life. You could talk to them and address that, because that's what you can talk about. Son, and you had the same last name for years until you married Maurice Scott. But I don't remember you having any empathy or anything like that when it comes to your husband, Maurice Scott's son, and his mom not having the same last name. But you didn't want to have a different name from your son. But I don't think you had a problem when Kaiwa and her son didn't have the same last name. Because if what Kaiwa is saying is correct, you said no. If what you're saying is correct, because you were the one that told Melody that Kaiwa felt like you interfered in their marriage. So whatever reason that you told Melody this bogus foolishness about, in your head, you never really wanted to be in this stereotypical cycle, and that this is tragic, all of that bogus mess that you were talking about when it comes to Melody changing her last name, and now it's different from her children. That's fine. She, like Melody told you, her children understand. And I don't get it why you feel like it's a stereotypical cycle. Dealing with your stereotypical cycles. cougars. That's what you can talk about. And there's some more stereotypical cycles that you could be talking about when you having these problems with your husband always talking about he wants to have S with you. And you know what I'm talking about because you keep on talking about it, your libido. That's stereotypical foolishness. If you want to talk about that, that's on you. We keep on hearing you talk about your libido, and you're running around here with your breast hanging out, 50 years old. There's nothing wrong with it if you don't see anything wrong with it. I'm just saying these are stereotypical things. Why do you feel like you have to do that at 50 something years old? Why do you feel like you have to keep on talking about your libido? These are stereotypical things that you can be talking about. And while you're talking about those type stereotypes, help women get out of these stereotypical cycles, that those are the ones, in my opinion, that are most tragic. That's what you can be talking about. So that's all I have for this video. Please drop down in the comments and let me know. Do you think that Kimmy the Cougar has a valid point when it comes to stereotypes about women not having the same last name as their children? What is it that you feel like that she was actually saying? Do you think that she just came up with something just off the cuff, just to make Melody look bad about something? I don't know what her motives were, but you tell me what you think. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Have a beautiful day. Remember, I am Aris, and I want to give you an update on the cough syrup. Now, I did take a vacation for Thanksgiving, and I forgot to take my cough syrup with me. My throat did get sore, but when I came back home, I immediately started back taking it. And I'm going to tell you, I usually have a sore throat in the winter time, and I know it's not winter yet, but during the cold months, and it's been cold, hot and cold here where I am. But I started back taking it, and my throat is not sore. I do have a runny nose, but it's not mucus, it's clear. So I'm still thinking that my cold syrup is working. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and have a beautiful day.